That's okay. All right, we are recording now.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
use my recording voice. So thank you everybody for joining us this evening. This is our next to last community engagement meeting for the purposes of this feasibility study. This is the last of our focus group meetings, and tonight we are going to bring our focus into discussions about arts education, both students at the school age spectrum and lifelong learning students, people who are out of school and still taking classes. And we're also going to discuss equity writ large with respect to how to make a possible arts venue as accessible and welcoming and useful to all the people of our community as we can. And then we are also going to have some specific dialogue about how a possible new Reston Arts Center can fulfill the expectations of the Fairfax County public school system. So we are very, very happy to have all of you with us tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces, and I see some friends from our FCPS system on the front lines and in the ivory towers of administration, and very grateful for your time and attention this evening. Want to say hello to our Hunter Mill District, Walter Alcorn, who's joining us tonight, and his associate Shamali Hoth is also on our call. So thank you everybody for being with us. And with that, I am going to turn the evening over to our consultant team from Grimm & Parker Architects, Amy Upton and Sue Haynes. We are engaging in this feasibility study with their assistance, and we are doing this with our partners in the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, Capital Building and Design branch, and the public-private partnership area of that august department. So thank you very much again for being with us, and I'll turn it over to Amy.
Great. Thank you, Lila. As Lila mentioned, I'm Amy Upton, and I am with Grimm & Parker Architects. We're a local architecture and design firm, and it's been our pleasure to listen to the community for these past few weeks and just hear all about the wants and needs for this new potential art center. And we are working on collating all of that input with the intent of creating a program and then creating a cost estimate to see if this project is gonna move forward and at what scale. I'm joined by Sue Haynes, also with Grimm & Parker. Sue's gonna raise her hand, and Julia Pryor and Linda Clark, and we'll just be collecting all of this information. The meeting is being recorded. We are also going to be utilizing the chat function of Zoom, and so we can copy and paste the whole chat box so that we can collect all the information. Hopefully, can everyone now see my screen? I just started sharing the slide deck. Yep, okay, it's got the title slide in there.
Yep.
Great. So we just wanted, for anybody that perhaps hasn't been on a lot of Zooms over the past 2 years, there's nothing wrong with that. Just wanted to point out a few things here and ground rules. Ground rules, we've muted everyone upon entry, and that's really just to cut down on background noise. We're glad that everyone's joining us. We also know it's dinner time for a lot of folks, and you may be in a car, so we'd appreciate if you just keep yourself muted. We will have a lot of time for discussion. We'll ask you to raise your hand using the reactions button over here. You can raise your hand. You can at any time, use any of these reactions, thumbs up, confetti, cannon, all of that. We're going to be making sure that we can see any responses there. The mute and unmute button is over on the lower left. You can also turn off your video or turn it on by starting your camera. If you're ever worried, if there's a red line through it, if both your camera is off and your mute button are off, There's a participant list. You can see all the participants. If you click on that, it brings up a dialog box on the side or a column of all the participants. And also, as we're moving along the bottom bar, there's a chat function where you can click on that. And again, a box or a column is going to pop up, and you can see that you can type in the chat there. You see that we're already recording this, and the intent of recording this meeting is that all these community meetings are being recorded. And in this great age of digital sharing and communication, the in-person meetings that we've had up before now have all been recorded and are being posted on the fairfaxcounty.gov website. And this Zoom recording will also be put there. And we really hope that if you know of someone who's a stakeholder or an interested party or a friend or a family member that wasn't able to be at this meeting, please just watch the recording, and then you can use the email address that's on the website. We'll share the email address later, and you can just put any of your comments or questions or concerns or excitement about the project in there. There's a reactions button that has like a little smiley face with a plus. If you click on that, you should get a dialog box that looks like what we're showing here, and that's where you can raise and lower your hand. If you have an older version of Zoom, the raise hand may time out after a while, but I think if everyone's computer is updating your Zoom, or if you're using it just through a website directly, then you may have to lower your hand. But we'll get into that when we get to the discussion part. And if you have to leave the meeting, you can just hit the leave button in the lower right. So I guess if there's any questions, people want to practice and use the chat function. One thing that's always great is if anyone has any suggestions for local restaurants. I think everybody can agree that everyone's looking for new restaurants to try. So feel free to type it into the chat. And Sue and Linda and Julia, will you guys just keep admitting anybody that comes into the waiting room?
I got
okay,
it.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Little Beast Reston.
Okay.
That's
great.
a restaurant.
Oh, good. good. Well, keep them coming throughout. And okay, so again, we just really want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your Monday night to join us here in this virtual Zoom session. It's been great to talk to people in person, but we also know that it's nice to have the opportunity to maybe reach a wider audience just from the comfort of everyone's home. So thank you again to Reston Community Center for facilitating this dialogue with the community, and for DPWES for representing the county's interest in reviewing the proffer. They have great technical expertise with this type of capital facility development. So rest assured that everyone's concerns are being reviewed with a lot of great vigor. Grumman Parker, as I mentioned, we're the local architecture firm that's going to be leading all of these discussions and translating what we hear from you into programming and space planning that ultimately will generate a cost estimate. So a brief agenda for tonight's meeting. We're going to have a little introduction and project overview just to set the stage. I know we see a lot of familiar faces on Zoom here, so it may be a repeat for those of you, but we also have the benefit of seeing some new faces tonight. So we just want to make sure that you have a little bit of background information. And then we're going to really talk we have a little over an hour to have the discussion to talk about the different art spaces, uses, priorities, and experiences that we could potentially have in this new Reston Arts facility. And also just talk about it from the perspective of FCPS, and as Lila mentioned, talking about it with school age children, and then with adult education and lifelong learners, and then with a focus on a broader discussion about equity and opportunity neighborhoods and all the other nonprofits that could be represented here. And then at the end, we'll just do a wrap up and next steps. But we just wanted to set the stage there. And looking at this, it's a little spreadsheet, but it shows that we've already had a couple focus groups and a kickoff meeting prior to this. We've been meeting every 2 weeks since Valentine's Day. And we've had a kickoff meeting. We sort of talked just big picture, what could this facility be? What would make the whole facility a success to you? What would be some barriers to participation? that sort of discussion. And then we had 2 really great sessions where we talked just about performing arts and all the varieties of experiences and activities and spaces related to performing arts. And then last time, 2 weeks ago, we talked with a focus on visual arts. And today, again, we're talking about arts education and equity. And then the goal is that in 1 week from tonight, just so next Monday at 6:30, we're going to talk with a general wrap up. And again, we just want to just highlight one more time that no design is going to happen yet until the proffer is accepted. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get this input, but as you can see by this overall feasibility schedule, we're currently in the early phase of community outreach, right? There's a time frame from February to April where we're doing this community outreach, and then there's going to be the preliminary programming, talking a little bit about some design concepts just for the sake of getting to cost estimating, and that's April, June. There'll be some proffer determinations and community re-engagement this summer. And then, the big sort of elephant in the room of building design construction, that's to be determined. So all of this is contingent on the feasibility study phase outcomes. So though we would love everyone to view these discussions of, if you had a magic wand and what would make the most sense for you and in your experience with this new potential facility, just keep in mind that right now, any answers about who exactly will be operating this program or using this space, we just don't have those answers yet. But it's all good to talk big picture. So, all right. So for now, as we did in our first opening meetings, we just wanted to get an idea about the demographics on the call and to sort of loosen everybody up and not just hear me drone on for 10 minutes straight. So here we are going to just start the poll. And we're using the Zoom poll function. So though you're looking at my screen and you may see it, hopefully on Zoom, you've been prompted with a question of what's your age, under 18, B is 18 to 24, C is 25 to 44, D is 45 to 64, and E is 65 and over or younger. So we have about 62% of our participants, and we're just going to pause for another minute and let people get a chance. Hopefully it's pretty easy and intuitive. You can just click and hit submit. And I'm looking, oh, good point, thank you. I'm going to also enable live transcription. Someone requested that, so I clicked yes for that. All right, we have about 80% participants right now, and it's stalled. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So this is great. This is actually very consistent with all of our meetings. This is the age range that we've been having, and so it's nice to see everyone. All right, and Julia or Linda, you guys got a screenshot of that poll result, right? Okay,
Correct.
Great. Okay, and we're just gonna move on here and start the next poll, which is, what best describes your ethnicity? And these clarifications, we got this directly from the U.S. Census. So A is Asian or Pacific Islander, B is Black or African American, C is Hispanic or Latino, D is Native American or Alaskan Native, E is white or Caucasian, F is multiracial or biracial, and G is a race or ethnicity not listed above. So everyone is a little quicker this time. This is great. So we have about 68% represented, and those of us from Grimm & Parker are all co-hosts on this as a redundancy factor, so we're not able to participate, but that's okay. All right, this is good. We have about 75% of participants so far on this. I'm gonna end the poll and share the results. So you can see this is our polling results. We have about 58% of white or Caucasian, Attendees on the call, 21% Black or African American, 13% Asian or Pacific Islander, and 8% of a race or ethnicity not listed above. So we appreciate everyone for taking the time to participate in the poll. I'm going to stop sharing that. And we have one more poll question. And this poll question is about a physical experience really in the space or in the potential new space. And the question is, are you differently abled? And here, A is you can choose more than one, or at least we hope we set it up that way, but choose all that apply. You know, A is a hearing challenge, B is a vision challenge, C is a cognitive challenge, D is ambulatory challenge, E is a self-care challenge, F is an independent living challenge, G is none of these apply, and then we actually added other. If you'd like to share in the chat, if we didn't capture it here, and there is you know, a different way of experiencing space or an environment that's not listed here. If you'd like to share that, please share it in the chat.
Oh, there. Now you just.
I never actually launched the poll.
I was like,
sorry.
I don't see the poll.
I was like, why is no one participating? Sorry about that.
Okay. We were just making sure everybody's awake.
Sorry. Great. We have about 54% right now. 60% participation. And this has been useful. We've had some discussions in earlier meetings about like sensory friendly spaces are a need. Obviously, if there's a greater challenge of self-care, independent living, that could really affect accessibility or proximity of certain spaces. So any input that we can get from folks about how better to plan a building or an environment for fewer barriers of participation, we appreciate. All right, I'm going to end the poll. We have about 72% participation, which is great. And I'm going to share the results. And as you can see, we have some folks like myself with a vision challenge, hearing challenge. It's about 21%, cognitive challenge, 4%, ambulatory challenge, 4%. So again, I know that, you know, it's a anonymous poll, but it's personal questions. So we appreciate everyone taking the time to participate in that. Okay. Stop sharing that. We're going to end the poll. And just moving on, again, this is a repeat for those folks who have been in previous meetings, but as you can see in the site plan in the upper left corner of the slide, there's a highlighted section of a site plan that says Block J. You know, these meetings are really for us to understand the community's needs for a proposed arts venue in the new section of the Reston Town Center. And that Block J is the block in question that the proffer with Boston Properties is being discussed about. The proffer would provide for you know, maximum of 60,000 gross square feet facility that could house a stage that's suitable for large scale music and dance performances, as well as other related amenities. We want to be clear to let everyone know that the county and RCC will seek to maximize the ability of this project to meet the goals of One Fairfax and the countywide strategic plan. If undertaken, this project will result in a facility that serves everyone equitably and with high quality. You know, just bottom line is that the goal of the county and RCC is to be good stewards of public funds. The county and RCC wants to maximize the usefulness and activation of all capital projects undertaken on behalf of the public. RCC will not raise a small District 5 tax rate to accomplish the project, and the county will seek partners for funding for the capital project. So again, we mentioned that there's a website set up for this project, and you can also just directly email this email. It's rcccontact@fairfaxcounty.gov. And then just to give a brief overview of where we're talking, you know, in the great county of Fairfax, we're looking at Reston in general. for this facility in the Reston Town Center, as you know, is very close to metro, to the toll road. There's a series of different parkways that sort of bookend the town center. So there's a lot of great public transportation, bus stops. There's a bus transit center just north in the Reston Town Center. There's some really beautiful little bridges that connect across the WNOD trail for biking trails. So it's a very pedestrian friendly, walkable space. And the site in question, the Block J, is highlighted in the lower portion along Sunset Hills Road in like a red hatch there, as you can see. This has an overlay on that aerial map that just shows the proposed master plan for the Boston Properties development, and you can see the lower right-hand corners of Block J. And this is a zoomed in view of that. What's interesting to note is that there's really a great variety of green space that's being proposed. There's a lot of street trees directly across the street to the right of Block J. You can see that there's a large green space area for athletics and leisure and gathering spaces. And when we're talking about building use or planned master plan development use here, you can see that there's a lot of variety of office space, residential, retail space, a hotel. The hotel's actually almost complete. And then the Block J is in the lower right-hand corner. So it's just a lot of great variety of activities that can take place all day and night around this proposed facility. There's been many years of surveys and research that have been done leading up to this effort with the goal to identify the need for performing and visual art spaces in Reston. So there's also a great website with this. There's a link here at fairfaxcounty.gov for an interactive map that you can see all the different visual performing art spaces in the area. But what we did realize was, one of the reasons why the Reston Art Center is really focusing on performing arts and visual arts, because we believe that the area can support a medium capacity performance venue. There's also fewer amenities for visual arts in relation, and so making sure that this facility can serve the needs of the home community and is suitable for a variety of arts offerings, not just now, but also in the future. There has been a question of if this new Reston Arts Center would replace either the Hunter Woods or the Lake Ann facilities, and right now that's not the goal. This is currently looked at as its own standalone facility. So we're just looking at it in that vein. I mentioned that the kickoff meeting, we had some great discussions, and all of these are on the website, but we talked just big picture about different types of spaces and art events and activities that could take place in the venue. We talked about how to create diverse, accessible, just, and human scale facility, how other considerations, all of this is being recorded and taken into account. And then when we looked with a more minute focus at just performing arts and then with visual arts, some of the input that we received about experiences and spaces is bullet pointed on this slide here, but everything from performances, rehearsals, instruction, broadcasts, and digital media experiences, concessions and rentals would be ideal. There's been discussion about having a proscenium style theater as a primary performance space with approximately 500 seats, balcony, stage with fly, rehearsal dance space with flexibility, a lobby with box office and concessions, and then the appropriate support spaces that would include a digital media suite, production office and tech space, wardrobe, scenery repair, dressing rooms, control booth storage, restrooms, catering, kitchen, and loading. So there's been a lot of discussion about also outdoor space, but with such a small site, we're not sure how much of the site would be left over to allow for that. And with the visual arts, of course, there can be some overlap and shared spaces and different types of uses at different times of day or weekdays and weeknights and weekends. But the primary goal is to provide space for experience of creation and exhibition and display for 2D and 3D arts, for instruction, for social events and potentially rentals, and immersive and conceptual art. And you can see here with the primary spaces and support spaces that it's everything from general or open studios, specific art studios, classrooms, a dedicated gallery, as well as display and exhibit spaces. Also, the focus of the future is video, communication is video, administration offices, storage, restrooms, loading, reception. But again,
Hey,
space for, yes.
I know we're almost ready for the discussion part, but there is a
Yep.
hand up at the moment. They might have a question about one of these slides. Can you
Okay.
unmute yourself, Rita? If you have a
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes. Hi. So thank you. I can wait for the discussion part. I'm sorry, I'm joining a bit late. I am en route from teaching at the university. So I just wanted to contribute some things from the role that I play in the community, which has been the director at South Lakes High School for choir and this space. And so whenever that's an appropriate time, just let me know and I'll share my thoughts on that. But I appreciate you reviewing all of this information because that's certainly helpful. So you can let me know whenever that is.
Yeah, I think it's actually
It's very
like
soon,
the
Rita.
next slide.
Thank
So
you.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yep.
I'll hang tight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So, and then again, just a discussion of public art. It's not listed here as a primary space or a support space, but public art doesn't need to be a space. It can be an icon, it can be an experience, it can be a visual marker. But the idea, there was a lot of great support for public art inside and outside, integrated into the facility design. And of course, the goal from DPWS, Fairfax County and RCC is that public art would be planned for along with the design of the building down the road. And so it wouldn't just be a sort of add-on, it would be planned for. And so all the necessary infrastructure for it would be included. Okay, so moving on, that just sort of sets a stage of some of the things that were discussed. Again, we'd love to hear from everybody about what we maybe are missing. This is where we're gonna also, as presenters, turn into listeners. We really want everyone to be able to have a voice. If we could, we would go sort of virtually around the room and do like a popcorn type of message where, we would let people speak up and then call on someone else, but we also don't want to put anyone on the spot. So we have an hour of time. Let's again, just stay positive and respectful of everyone's time and give people a chance to answer. But here we're gonna, just to give some prompts, we have 6 slides of prompts. And again, there's a few slides for FCPS focus, some other slides that sort of just talk about general arts education, that could be for adult education or other types of nonprofits. And then we have some questions that are a little more focused on general discussion about equity and a focus on neighborhood opportunity or opportunity neighborhoods. So we want to get to everybody, but this question does have a focus for Rita and others that are related to Fairfax County Public Schools. Sorry, Sue, this is actually your part. So I'm gonna let you chat and I'm gonna mute.
no, it's all good. We can jump back and forth. So yeah, we're gonna sort of try to flip the talking here and listen to you guys, because that's really why we're here. So like Amy said, we have about an hour. So we have about 6 questions. So the first one is right here, and it's related to the arts education aspect in terms of the FCPS arts related curriculum as a whole. What kind of programs are missing, and what kind of arts programs can be incorporated into this facility that might supplement your programs? And what kind of, we're looking for space needs. We don't need to have the exact, just sort of in general, what kind of spaces you could benefit from. Now what happened to Rita?
I'm here.
Oh.
So yes, I'm here, and I'm happy to speak on that piece. This is very exciting. Just to start, that this is actually coming to fruition. And I think one of the big points I wanted to share was that at the high school, we were renovated probably around 2008 was about the time when we got our new facility. And with that, we did not get increased space for our theater. So our theater is a 575 seat theater. Rather quaint, definitely does not have the space to, you know, accommodate large events. For example, this space would be really great for the school if they're hosting an event perhaps that would need more space. I know for us, we have pyramid wide productions sometimes for concerts that go across the entire school pyramid from elementary to high school. And we often have to break those types of things up because we just don't have the space to accommodate all of that. So having a space that's larger than 500 seats for a community space would be really important. I do think that also helps some of the other organizations that tend to bring in more audience members. So I would say, like, one thought would just, from my end, would be having a space in the community that's like a 900 seat space is super helpful, because that's not something we can offer even within our own community for certain types of events throughout the year. And I don't know what the status of the piano is. I don't know if that's been brought up. I assume it has at some level, but being a musician, hopefully it will have a piano and a room for it to live in. So that was just something that off the top of my head as I was listening. I don't know if that's been thrown into the mix. As for the space itself, I really do believe it's important from an education standpoint that it's flexible. So modeling it after some of the universities that have the kind of the shell is the backdrop that can kind of be movable behind. So it's set up for if you're having an ensemble similar to Carnegie Hall, or if you're not and you want to open that space up and use it as, you know, a place to project images, maybe for visual art, or maybe it's for a musical theater production. I think the more we can, you know, consider some of the models of the newer university platforms, those really allow for multi events. I'll use George Mason as an example for the Center of the Arts. You know, they've done operas in there, they've done symphony concerts they do in there, choral concerts in there, and musical theater productions can be done in there. So it's really well used and very, very accommodating for the variety of needs. And, you know, that one's a much bigger space with the double-decker type of seating. I don't know that we need that much space, but I think if we're at least leaning toward the 900 seat mark or 800 seat mark, it would certainly serve us better compared to what we have in existence within the community to use. I know in the past I posted some community that type of festivals that were educational for the students at the school. But again, we would have to do 3 or 4 concerts instead of 1, just because we couldn't have that capacity. I know for us, we'll do a show and we will have 3 or 4 shows because it will sell out you know, a space. So how great would it be to have the opportunity for organizations to double their audiences because we have a larger space within the community? So those are a couple of things that I just wanted to throw out there from the FCPS end, based on what we have in Reston, specifically at South Lakes. And I don't see our theater getting changed. That would require, you know, a lot of money and demolition, where I think this space could really be a secondary option, which would also get our people into the community more as well, which is a great thing to have.
Thank you, Rita. And we'll take we'll listen to everybody's comments, but I do want to tell you that we're in more of the range of 500 seats, and that has to do with budget and site constraints in addition to just general program needs. But we will totally, you know, take your comment to heart and see what things really turn out to be.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I understand those things. I just wanted to speak from that place, because I know, for example, some schools do have a 1,500 or 1,000 seat theater. We don't have that in at South Lakes, and so we're always sort of struggling with large events, and where we even moved some of them into gym spaces, which is not ideal for any of our performers, but that's where we kind of end up. And then our kids don't really get that experience, especially the younger ones, of having that performing experience across, grade levels and ages, which in a professional space, it changes everything for them when they get that experience. So that's what I wanted to advocate for, but I totally also respect all of those pieces of the puzzle as well.
And now, do you have adequate rehearsal space?
We always can use rehearsal space.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, having a place where we know that is an option when we're all, there's orchestra, guitar, band, dance, and theater at South Lakes, and chorus, right? So we all barely make it through the year with our own co-curricular concerts and events, with also then sharing with the rest of the school and the community. So having a space like this where we know, hey, you know what, we have a major conflict with whatever else is happening that week, but hey, why don't we see if we can plan to have it at a community space that can house this, audience. That's a fantastic option, because we do have, it gets harder and harder every year to meet the needs of all of our disciplines, plus the rest of the school and community use. So I think, again, that's another wonderful opportunity for us to engage in this wonderful addition to the community.
And I hear what you're saying about having to have like 2 or 3 shows if you're sold out, but I guess this would function in a similar way where you could use it and have 3 nights of performances. Yeah. Okay.
And we also, I mean, potentially, or you might, it allows for so many options, generating more audience, more opportunities, all of those things. And I know you were talking about the different options of use in the space. I know that I feel like there was some conversation about there being an upper level layer to it. Yeah. And I really think that's an awesome way to draw in different types of like jazz band. Like we have a jazz band at the school. How cool would it be, for example, to have a local jazz group or a local, whatever it is, a singer that's their kind of vibe, and offer that option as, a summer series. Like there's so much potential to engage the arts in deeper ways with the versatility of the space.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Well, we have another hand raised. Sorry. We have Marco.
He's got a thumbs up, so this is even better.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add, Marco?
No, I was just confirming what Rita was saying. She's a colleague of mine, and she's done an amazing job to put together some very large interactive shows using the pyramid of South Lakes. I was just giving the thumbs up for what she was commenting on.
Got it.
Marco has helped build some of those sets for those productions. So it's another issue of where do we store the set? All of those things come into play. So so thank you, Marco.
Yeah, I don't see other hands, so I was going to ask you another question, Rita. Do you have a lot of digital media?
Hold on. Dr. Elliott, you had a hand raised, but then I don't know if it just timed out on you. Did you want to speak up? Am I putting you on the spot?
I don't want to take this in directions that it shouldn't go. I represent the American Youth Philharmonic Orchestras, which is now in its 57th year. We have 500 approximately students aged from about 11 years to high school seniors, and we have 6 orchestras and 6 instrumental ensembles, a summer school program, and a weekly outreach program called Music Buddies. Now, our interest in this is really more as a performance venue, because we give something like 30 public concerts each season, and finding suitable accommodation that's affordable is always a challenge. We do a lot of concerts at the Schlesinger Hall in Alexandria, which we love dearly because it's acoustically excellent. And I wanted to make a plea for the architects to take acoustic very much into consideration if there's a serious intent for using this for musical purposes. One of the things that always worries me when I hear the term multi-purpose for halls is that, frankly, and perhaps a bit rudely, it means they do everything equally badly.
Right.
If it-
Yeah, we've had this conversation. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If it's designed for speech, then it's going to be rather too dry for music, and vice versa. I hope that the architects will maybe learn some lessons from the, in many ways, superb Capital One Hall. Because if you talk to musicians about performing there, you'll find some interesting comments will come your way. I love the idea that this hall could be 700 people. I think many arts organizations, concert giving organizations, would find that ideal, whereas the size of somewhere like the GMU Center for the Arts can be a bit daunting, because I think it seats something around 2,000 people. And that's always certainly a challenge for us if we want to get a large audience. A large audience for us is probably 600 or 700. But equally, it's important that the stage should be able to accommodate fairly large orchestras. Our largest orchestra has 101 players in it, and even the smallest has 45. So those are just some of the general comments I wanted to throw in. We'd work, just related to FCPS, we do work very closely with FCPS. We are highly dependent on the goodwill to allow us to use 3 schools every Monday for the rehearsals. And I probably should be at one of them just at this very moment. Collaboration for us is very, very important. And I just wanted to put those few things on the table.
Terrific. Thank you.
That's great. We have some, thank you. We have some hands raised in order. We're going to go Dr. Tara Taylor, Jan Bradshaw, and then Rebecca. So Dr. Taylor, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, thank you so much. So Rita did such a great job of speaking to our school needs. I'm just going to speak from a district level. Hello, everyone. I'm located in the Fine Arts Office and Central Office. So with that specifically, just needs that are out there for the district performing arts is a storage space. And I know this is a common request. I don't know how that would look for this particular center that serves the community or our schools, but with our music and theater programs and other programs that use our backstage spaces, just like Dr. Elliott spoke to, some of our community use organizations, a lot of that backstage space is taken up, which then sometimes leads to damage. Also costumes, props, furniture. So any sort of storage space has been a desperate need that we've been looking into for many years, particularly with the expense in the area to find that storage space. We always need more technical theater shop access and equipment. So we do have that technical theater spaces at many of our high schools, but particularly with our productions at middle schools as well as elementary schools, and also some of our shops are rather small at our high schools. We would love to have some more spaces to build those sets, get them out. I think that would also serve a lot of our community theater organizations. We're trying to grow our elementary school theater and dance programs. We now have Virginia state standards for both of those disciplines. So we haven't necessarily, we have just a couple in our elementary schools, but we would love to grow them. And sometimes growing them is with community organizations that are local. So I know that would also mean looking for some teachers and programs, but having, I guess, classroom spaces that could host those specific programs or programs like that to support our instructional would be fantastic. That could cater specifically to performing and fine arts needs. We're always looking for teacher PD spaces. We do use our schools at times, but they're during the school year and often during the school day. Also looking for spaces that are conducive for the fine and performing arts would be helpful. So that would be great. In consideration of what might be available, having a virtual space where you can then, just like we're doing right now, Zoom those PDs or those meetings would be helpful. I know, especially in the arts, we want to get away from that now that we're going back to normal, but that is great for greater access. Just looking at my list here. Rita said great things with renovation, district events. And then lastly, I just want to add that Capital One space, again, to echo what Dr. Elliott said, it's beautiful. They did such a nice job, but it is so expensive to rent, even with the discounted rate.
Right.
So I'm sorry if I missed it. I don't know what it would be for this, but we're finding even as a school system or with some of the community organizations I work with, we can't access that space even as a preferred user because it's just too darn expensive. So I think these spaces are so beautiful, but I hope that they are able to be accessed the way they were intended to support the community and the users, that at times we want our funds to go towards the children and the teachers and the programs, and that's limited. Thank you so much. That's all I got.
That last point is understood. We have a whole section to talk about equity and how to, make sure it's accessible to everybody. Where did you say next, Jan?
We're going to go to Jan. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for calling on me. One of the things that I noticed quite a while ago, Reston Community Center used to have practice rooms for students who were learning, and they could go into the rooms and they could practice their instrument. And I also noticed that now when we have people coming for recitals, and they want a quick practice before they go into play, that there's really no place that I know of where students can just go and practice their instrument. Could be for voice too. It doesn't have to just be for an instrument. But if consideration could be made for adding in practice rooms into this facility, that would be wonderful, because I don't know where there are any in Reston or in the nearby area, and they would be well used, and they would be constantly used. So that's my main point. Of course, having it affordable is number one, the key, and that's tricky, I know, with the expense of building something to this magnitude, but that is the key for it to work.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you. Rebecca, you're up.
Thank you so much. I wanted to talk about video production, and I'll leave this to the experts to correct me on who are involved here, but my understanding is that South Lakes High School does not have video production courses. And as someone who produces video, also teaches video and film at George Mason, that concerns me. I'd love to see, I think we have an opportunity here to give our community access to video production, and not just video production, but also I think gaming, I think graphics and animation, in the tech savvy Dulles corridor. I think this type of education around the digital visual realm is just such a perfect fit and fills a gap that we have currently. I think we also need to think about it in terms of equity, right? I think the pandemic has made us all very aware of the digital divide that we have in our nation and in Fairfax County. And I think by providing community access to the equipment that's necessary to produce this type of digital media is really important from that standpoint. And, I think we're, in terms of like facilities, I think what would be required to do that is essentially kind of three types of rooms. One room would be a classroom setting that would have a projector. And I think that potentially that could be also used in a multi-use way as also filming studio space. If there's black walls in some area, if we can black out the windows, if there are windows, I think there would certainly need to be equipment storage for production equipment, audio, video, etc. And I think too, you'd need a room dedicated to computers, computer access, where you can edit, you can work on graphics, animation. And I think icing on the cake would be audio recording space.
Right.
So yeah, I think that covers what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we were actually planning on a lot of spaces that would be similar to working with that. And the audio recording aspect has been heard a number of times. So thank you.
All right, we're gonna keep moving, but I think we've heard some discussion that is gonna just feed on to these. So if you have your hand raised and we haven't called on you, just sit tight. Let me just share my screen one more time. We're gonna move to the next question, which is related. It has to do with focus on the arts education, for like a focus on adult education or lifelong learners and the nonprofit spheres. So again, are there any programs missing? Well, can this new facility support these programs? What are the space needs with that? And again, I think we've heard a lot already, which is fantastic feedback that we could also imagine relates to this demographic as well. But if anybody would like to chime in that hasn't had a chance to talk yet, we'll call on you. Scrolling. Don't see any hands up yet.
Oh, I see.
Oh, Marco.
Marco.
Yes, I just want to add, I know that this is a very, it's still in its infancy. This program that I am running, it's 10 years old at South Lakes, but when we first started running it, it's a STEAM public art program, and there is a platform on one of the local lakes, Lake Thoreau, that is remote and allows, it has allowed students to every year to conceive of a full-scale public art project. I've always envisioned this to be a kind of program that other schools would be doing as well. Part of the challenge is having a location where public art can be installed, and it's temporary. And the program at South Lakes right now, it has, for the locals around the lake, it has become an anticipation from one year to the next. And it wouldn't, having a platform on, or maybe a couple of platforms for schools to have the venue to do a public work of art for a temporary period of time, where I'm envisioning too, where artists can be brought in, professional artists can be brought in to work with students to create the work and then have it on display. It has been a very successful program. Currently, when COVID hit, I had 3 classes working on one project for the Reston Town Center. That project is fully assembled and sits in my classroom. It is about 13 feet long, 6 feet tall, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting on the logistics to getting a foundation in at the park, at Hyatt Park, for this thing to go on display. Having said that, if there was platforms that are designed from the beginning that afford anchoring processes for large scale sculptures or sculptures, period, that could be interchanged, it's be a wonderful opportunity. And I think, like I said, I envision this program to be something that is not only occurring at South Lakes, but other schools. So we're currently in dialogue with Langston Hughes about doing a public artwork for Langston Hughes clear story in their entrance. So yeah, so it's a unique program, but like I said, my vision is to see it grow, and having other art teachers have the opportunity with their students to do these involved works that take the students through this wonderfully professional process. So.
That sounds super exciting. It's funny because we have a lot of ideas about incorporating public art and having a gallery that could be rotated. And so the question is, how much is permanent? How much would be maybe a rotating collection? It sounds like you're talking, how much would you be exterior versus interior? And it sounds, is it all sculpture that you're talking about?
Yes, I was talking about exterior.
Exterior, okay.
Yes, exterior poses those STEM challenges. I don't I like STEAM because we throw in the arts there,
yeah.
but the way engineering is moving these days, it's quite beautiful. It has really become sculptural, our bridges, our structures. So I think it just opens up an opportunity for this kind of co-discipline, arts and STEM together to challenge students with the parameters that need to be covered to do such a work.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds terrific.
And we're just looking at the chat. There's also sort of a second to what Marco has shared about collaboration with many disciplines, also replicating across multiple schools and including Herndon High School as well, because obviously that includes Reston residents. So that's great. Well, this has been some good discussion thus far, and we can keep talking about that, but we just want to just share a couple of other prompts just to keep it moving, and we can always come back to school age focus if we don't have enough conversation about these other items. Here, so I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we were going to focus a little bit on equity, and I think you guys already touched on this a little bit. But it would be good to hear, your expectations on, how you would connect with this potential facility and how it can support the Opportunity Neighborhoods program. I'm not sure if there's anybody here representing them in Reston and Herndon, and how could it serve all the people effectively, regardless of income and other resources. We really want to be able to reach out. We know cost is an issue, renting cost, and, coming to see a show cost. Does anybody want to talk about this? What kind of barriers would there be to prevent this from being open to everyone? Oh, Natasha, go ahead. Can you unmute yourself?
Hey there, my name is
Hi.
Natasha. I am the managing artistic director of Dark Horse Theater Company. We're a small community professional theater group. I missed the performing arts night. I had an event that evening, so I couldn't attend. So I apologize. I know this is not our targeted evening, but I guess I can speak on behalf of the smaller black boxy fringy theater groups is just regarding equity. If we're talking this space exclusively being rehearsal hall and 700 and 900 seat theaters, it certainly wouldn't be equitable to us little guys. And, we tend to, I know there are quite a few community groups like us that would be looking more for the 50 to 250 range. And, I wonder if this would be something that if anyone's looked at maybe spaces like the Hilton in Manassas, where they have a wide variety of spaces to increase equitable use throughout multiple sized groups that play to multiple sizes of audience.
Okay. So you have 50 to 250, as you said, is the range for your typical shows.
Right. Yes. And I'm speaking, on behalf of like our particular group. We top out at about 125 because our specialty is black box immersive theater. But, there are groups like us that play a little higher. So I'm trying to not just speak specifically about us,
Got it.
but it would certainly prohibit groups our size if this is a space exclusively for 700 to 900 and up performances.
Well, we're currently targeting around 500, and it might be arranged in a way where there's 250 on the orchestra. And
I guess that's what I was, and I apologize if I missed this, but is it?
I'm sorry, 350 on the orchestra, 150 on the balcony. So it wouldn't feel empty if you closed the balcony and had 350 on the, on the orchestra. And so we're trying to accommodate the smaller groups and make it feel intimate,
I guess the specific question I have is, has there been consideration made to create a space that has more than one performance stage? Like, I was using the Hilton as an example. Kennedy has their smaller spaces, like something where there is more than one place.
Yeah. I think there's probably going to be rehearsal space and a dance studio and things like that, but not another full out performance venue. But we're not, it's not all squared away just yet. There was a question about in the chat about the downtown Herndon plans to have a black box theater. Have you guys been talking with them too?
Yes, we have. I mean, there's more than one. Just in the DC area and Fairfax County, there's 65 small professional theater groups. So that's why, it's one space might not be enough for us little guys to share, but I get that we're the minority.
Yeah, no, I mean, we do want to hear from everybody. So it's possible that the rehearsal space, can be outfitted to do the kinds of things you're talking about once it gets actually, designed later. So that's a possibility. What do you think?
Okay, thank you.
Amy, thank you so much.
I'll just, the next slide has a question that's related, so I'm just gonna click through just to keep us moving here. And again, it's related, but this is just a bigger question, what ways can the facility make everyone feel welcomed and included? So talking, just another way to think about it is your expectations in terms of connecting to the arts experience in a potential new facility. If there's anything that maybe just has come to you that you want to mention. And then we also have this question, which again has to do with financial access. If anyone has any ideas or thoughts about the operating framework and how that could allow for free or significantly low cost tickets, enrollment, or use processes. Understanding that, Cap One, though beautiful, may be a big barrier to a lot of affordable use. If anyone has any ideas about this, we'd love to hear it.
I'm just gonna jump in. This is Tara again. Just because I served on the committee for the Capital One facility. One thing that I'm going to applaud them for is their application process in terms of allowing people to apply to use the space. It was very thorough and organized. The one thing that I think that they've discovered along the way that I'm not quite sure if they've changed is that they had cutoff dates And sometimes that was a barrier as people didn't have their schedule quite yet. And then it would book a year out. So again, if you're serving these community or school groups, sometimes they just don't have the ability to do that. So I guess in answering this question, just what the ideas might be around how might groups apply, what that process is like, particularly for a lot of educators. Is it too time consuming, which can also be a barrier at times when you're already got so much on your plate. And then also the time frame around it and how that continues to roll throughout the year and in terms of booking for the following year.
Yeah, all good points. I mean, I think there's equity of the arts groups using it, and then there's equity of the patrons coming. You know, there's kind of two sides to it. I mean, this site is literally at a metro station, which is great for, you know, folks who might want to come that way and don't have easy access to a car. So that aspect is good.
And I'm going to jump on one more time, and then just the programming that's being offered and what is being seen and represented. I know that's hard when you're getting applicants come in, but I know a struggle that we have is sometimes we provide arts experiences, but the communities that we're trying to outreach to that haven't had access to the arts sometimes don't have a proclivity to the arts. So then how can we welcome them in where they might not be, have had exposure to the arts to be interested, to then to get to show them, you know, to outreach to a different community, because sometimes just having the arts doesn't mean that all communities will come, right? So that representation, and then also finding ways to invite the community in that serves needs and also interests and honors various backgrounds. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, you know, having sort of a street frontage in this downtown sort of walkable neighborhood would really help. With someone could be just going out to dinner at a certain restaurant and walk past and, you know, be exposed to something they might not normally see. So that could help the topic you were talking about.
Yeah, or maybe there's and again, this isn't a direct facility piece or space, but, you know, having a mobile arts experience van or stage that can sort of come out from this facility. Maybe it is housed there and it goes to different neighborhoods just to sort of interest people to come to other events. I'm not sure if that's something that is possible. Any other comments related to this? Just anyone else have their hands raised? We have another question related to this, which is similar, but slightly different. And I'll just share the screen. And this has to do again with physical access. What challenges do you perceive in getting to the arts experiences at this facility? What considerations should we keep in mind in terms of transportation and access? And then also thinking about time of day or weekdays versus weekends. What can we keep in mind for how to make this facility best serve the local neighborhoods just even outside of the radius of the town center itself? And again, we have bus, metro, there's going to be parking in this town center. It's fairly walkable, but bike, but any other ideas? You know, is there a need for a dedicated drop-off lane or short-term parking or obviously glass visibility can be a great reduction of barriers, having the building be an icon at night, or some careful illumination of activities happening, can be a billboard to what's going on inside.
Yeah, how about any more on the time of day question? Obviously the school, bleed over function. It might be that kids need spaces after school to practice or I'm not sure. Go ahead, Jan.
Oh, hi. Just that you brought up the parking question, and that is going to be a problem, I think. People, yes, they can come in from DC and use the metro. They could probably even use the metro from Dulles, and regions that are close to us. But for other people who are coming up from the south, they may not be able to use the metro, in which case they are going to need to park somewhere. And so I think that should be a big consideration, affordable parking and parking, definitely a drop-off zone. So you could drop off the kids and that sort of thing. But I don't know where people could park to attend that. I think that's going to have to be carefully worked out. I don't think it's insurmountable, but I think it really, really needs some careful deliberation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Totally agree. Are there any folks in the call from the opportunity neighborhoods who want to get some, give us some of their insight?
Or you can type in the chat if you don't feel, like you want to speak up. That's totally fine too. And we also, again, always have the email, the FCC or the RCC. We'll show it in a minute. I'm confusing it.
So Dr. Taylor added a little bit of information on the timelines into the chat about after school space from 2 to 7 and Saturday rehearsal and Sunday matinee. So all their timing is kind of outside of the school hours. Go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, is external performance space being considered, like a small amphitheater for like improv?
Yeah, that would be lovely, but I think we are going to end up in a little bit of a challenge on the size of the site. We might end up with a rooftop space if we're lucky, but I'm not sure we'll have room on the site for maybe something small, but not as big as you're probably thinking. Now, keep in mind, there is a site across the street that has sort of a green area there. I'm not sure what's being planned for that. And there is a little green downtown kind of space in the rest of the development by Boston Properties that could maybe have something, but I think we've had that on our kind of list of spaces, but I'm not sure our site's going to fit it. You could highlight, yeah, that there's a green space over there. That looks like actually the perfect shape for for something. But we're not, that's not part of what we're talking about, unfortunately.
Right. There's a space directly across the street that looks like, it could be a green space, has shade, it potentially could be multi-use and not just activity, like not just recreation, but performance space. There's also a couple comments in the chat, which are great, about considering access, not just via metro, but also local bus and transport, and a suggestion of smaller bus runs between schools. For example, a drop-off lane for buses, for schools, seniors, and community. That's good. Sometimes those drop-off lanes have different turning radii and space needs than just cars. And then which session has competing and local venues been discussed in? like to go back and listen, as I missed earlier Zoom meetings on van pools. We talked a little bit about the competing and local venues. Talked a little bit about it more in the performing arts session, which was the second focus group, or the first focus group, the second meeting. But I think there's more information on the website. Actually, oh, Lila's typing it in. The previous studies actually have a lot of information about operator issues, strategic outlooks, venue types across regional footprint. So yeah, we didn't touch base too much on looking at all the different types of competing spaces in these meetings, just referencing back to the studies that have been done. And a lot of those studies are linked on the website, which we just recopied just a few minutes ago in this chat. So you can scroll up and see it. There's also a comment in the chat about the Kennedy Center Reach project, about having outdoor space and having that outdoor space be available to community and music festivals to bring in community members that might not come to the center otherwise. So having a similar type of precedent of the Reach be considered for the outdoor area here is a good comment.
We might have a small area that might work out for something. I guess it will depend on how the whole design, as you can see, the shape of the lot's a little funky, so there might be something that works.
There's also a question, isn't there a plan for community center outdoor space as what's being known as Reston Town Center West? So I need to look into that a little bit more.
Or are they referring to the middle space, the middle green space? I don't know if that's considered Reston Town Center West.
The names have been sort of.
Yeah, the name got changed around. If there's any, Lila, do you know what that is?
Yeah, so there are a number of different developments that are planning for outdoor spaces across the Tysons, Reston Town Center, and Silver Line Corridor nexus of development projects. And in fact, Reston Town Center North is anticipated to incorporate a large central green with some type of amphitheater performance focused element in that. So I think, you know, it's important not to forget all the moving pieces of the whole arts landscape, and make sure that, you know, we're not thinking that this one block is going to solve every arts problem in the county. There is a tremendous unmet needs for support spaces and accessory spaces. But Tara, I can tell you right now that the cost of this property isn't going to support a warehouse because it's not the highest.
Layla, nobody will buy our warehouse. Darn it. But that's okay. You're doing something great anyway. Thank you for what you're doing.
Just want to take that one off the table, because sorry. You know, but yes, I think that the county's concern is to look at the arts in terms of an ecosystem and not in terms of a single solution addressing every gap and every unmet need across the whole 400 square miles of the county. So these are all not surprising points that people are making, because these are things that people in the arts have been talking about for a long time. So, you know, to the degree that this venue can address as many concerns as people have expressed as possible and remain, to Dr. Wheeler's point, not become so much of everything all at once that it does nothing well. I think that's a vital element of the planning, and it's also going to be important because it's going to take multiple partners to realize this. It's going to be very important for as if this process goes forward, to really have very deep discussions about collaboration and cooperation, and how the calendar can be managed so that it can serve as many different parts of the area and the communities as is possible. It's a big challenge. And I think, we have to anticipate that as new communities are being built as a function of development, more and more of them are going to want to have these kinds of features. And so, this is just one project, and the hope would be that as other projects come online, they will also look to, host some of the other kinds of needs that maybe don't make it into this one footprint.
Yeah, great point. There's a lot to balance.
Yeah, and there was a, ditto from Julie on that about, focus, let's target what's not being addressed yet by other venues. And, can this be considered a venue as a cultivator or incubator? I mean, those are great ways to think about this facility as well, especially for the scale of spaces and the types of activities and functions that it can serve. We only have a few more minutes. Let me just share the last few slides. Again, we have these common questions that we ask each time about, again, what can we do just catch all to create a diverse, accessible, equitable, and human scaled facility, and what other considerations are important that the county should keep in mind to respond to this opportunity. Just so everyone knows, we can talk about those for the last few minutes, but the next meeting again is next Monday. It'll be a general wrap up. And again, we'll be meeting via Zoom, and everyone is welcome to come. The Fairfax has been keeping a distribution list of all attendees as people RSVP for all of these events. So if you were forwarded the invite for this and you want to come to the next meeting and you just want to be on the distribution list just in general, please put your email in the chat and we can capture that for the Fairfax folks. And if we will be sending out, just like this meeting, send out a Zoom invite prior to the meeting based on who is being who is
And they
RSVPing
can
for it.
also send their email to rcccontact@fairfaxcounty.gov if you don't want to share your
Right.
email address with the 40
Thank
people
you.
on this
Very
call.
good point. Very good point, Lila.
All you
yes.
school system people have no lives, so your email is public anyway. So
Correct. Sorry about
but-
that. So feel free
yeah,
to email
okay.
this. Here's the email address again. It's rcccontact@fairfaxcounty.gov. We'll type that into the chat. And then you can always, again, check back to the website, fairfaxcounty.gov, Public Works, Capital Projects, Reston Arts Center, where the presentation from tonight, which is really just a series of prompts, and the polls and the discussion items will be shared along with the video recording of this.
Hey, Amy, can you just remind me the square footage one more time?
Yes, it's a max of 60,000 square feet.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm just gonna type the email in here. Hopefully I can do that and talk. I'm gonna also just stop sharing so that people can see everyone's faces if you want to for the last few minutes here.
Does anyone have any other thoughts they want to share that we didn't capture?
And again, in next week's chat, we can, gather more information as well.
I'd like to add one thing, and I'm sorry, I've been looking to find out where I can raise my hand, and I still can't find that.
Let's go like this.
Oh, okay, that worked. Sometimes it's helpful to have something mentally to compare it to. I was looking around for other venues that may be in the 60,000 square foot range. And Dr. Elliott had mentioned the Schlesinger Hall which is on the Northern Virginia campus in Alexandria. And that facility, if the information that they gave me is correct, is about 57,000 square feet. And it includes an auditorium that seats 981, and then it has classrooms and other parts of the facility, that would probably have green rooms and dressing rooms and all the things that we would be looking for as well. So that, I'm tossing that out there just as a
Right.
something to compare it to.
Yeah, great, thanks. I don't know if that has visual arts too, right? Is that just performing
I
probably?
think that it may not have the visual arts to the degree that this
Right.
facility is looking at, but I believe it does have a gallery.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
And in the chat, Dr. Taylor mentioned it has a display room. There's also a comment about, just a general comment for the facility about making sure whatever direction this project goes,
Right.
that attention is paid towards hearing and non-hearing accommodations. So it's a great comment. Thank you, Julie. And thanks, Susan, for waving us down and unmuting. It's great. We do appreciate everyone raising hands, but feel free to just unmute yourself. And if you have anything else to say tonight, again, we have a couple minutes. We'd love to hear it. And yep, comment about the sign language person or translator is not an afterthought. It's a good comment. Oh, and also Paul has put into the chat a link to the /Inter Center. So
yep,
there's a link there if you're scrolling up and you want to click on that. But I mean, this has been extremely helpful for us to hear everyone's thoughts. We do get the information that's sort of emailed to the RCC contact at fairfaxcounty.gov email, but it's just great to hear everyone's feedback and to see what comes out of these discussions, because it's great how ideas can get spurred from other folks. So we really appreciate everyone taking the time on a Monday, especially a cold one that feels like winter, to log in to this Zoom, and it's been fantastic to hear from everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And with that, we're just about wrapping up at 8 o'clock.
1 minute early. 1 minute early. Come on, Amy.
We'll be respectful of your time and let you all out 1 minute early. Do whatever you want with that extra minute. But again, thank you, and we hope to see as many of you as we can next week on Zoom. We'll have a different link. That'll be sent out, and we really appreciate it. So have a good rest of your night. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Gonna stop the recording.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave, Amy, right?